So this one is going to be writing equations from a table. So we've been talking about our equations. We're still using y equals mx plus b. But now we're going to grab it from our table. So our table, we're going to have our x values and we're going to have to figure out the y's. Okay, so let's just review really quick. Let's review. It says create a table given the equation. They already gave us our equation. Remember how we identify our y-intercept, our b? Our b is right here. So it's going to be 6, and our slope is our m. Our slope is just 5. Don't put 5x. Those are not the same. You have to just put 5. So from this equation, I can finish my table. I'm going to use this to get my y value. Okay, so I'm going to put 5. Now I have an x value. We're going to plug in these right here. So I'm going to put 5 parentheses. My x is 0. So I'm plugging in 0. And then it says plus 6. Okay, that's going to give me my y. So go ahead and multiply it. 5 times 0 is 0. Plus 6 is just 6. Okay, the next one. I'm using this equation right here, 5x plus 6. But I have an x. My x is 1. So I'm going to plug that in and I'm going to solve for it. So 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 6 is 11. Okay, the next one. I'm still using my equation, 5x plus 6, but they gave me my x values. Plugging in that 2. Plus 6. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. The next one is 5. I'm plugging in my x, which is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 6 is 21. Okay? But we are working from a table now. We got to get an equation from it. So we got to get this part, okay? So example 1. It's really important you pay attention and follow along. So our table, I just made this part right here, but our table usually looks like this, and I'll just plug in the numbers x and y. We have 0 and 1, 1 and 4, 2 and 7, and 3 and 10. Again, that's how it originally looks. They're going to give you this table and expect you to find your equation. Okay? So one thing I do want to talk about, again, the y-intercept, our b, is the easiest thing to find. Okay? I told you before that you know your y-intercept when your x is 0. Okay? It's the same thing as saying 0, 1. Let's just say we got 1, 2, and 3. My point is right here. Your line will probably be going this way. Okay, so our point is 0, 1. So whenever this x is 0, that y value is going to be your b, your y-intercept. Okay, this example right here is showing you what it would look like on a graph. Just like how we always find our b first, we see where it crosses the y-axis. Remember how we see it crosses at 1? So our y-intercept is 1. Now when we create our equations, we're going to be working backwards. Our equation is still the same. Y equals mx plus b. We just found my b. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it here. So it's going to be plus 1. I have to find my m. Okay, I can do that by looking at these points. By looking at the rest of the points, I'm going to see the pattern. I'm going to start on the x side. It's going from 1 to 0. It's going from 1 to 0. Okay. In order for me to get to 1 to 0, I would have to add 1, right? What about from 1 to 2? I would have to add 1 again. Do you see the pattern? Then from 2 to 3, we're still adding 1. Okay, now my y. Let's see how it's happening from 1 to 4. What's happening? How do I get from 1 to 4? Well, you're going to add 3. Okay, we do the same thing from 4 to 7. What's happening? How do I get from 4 to 7? You're adding 3. The same thing here from 7 to 10. You're adding 3. So you see the pattern. Okay, remember, in order to find my m is the change in y over change in x. So I'm gonna look at my y side. What was the change? Our change was plus 3, right? So I'm gonna put the number 3 on top. Our change in x now, well, what did we do? We added 1 to each side, right? So it's going to be 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. My m is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in my equation. I can already see I have my m is 3. I'm going to plug that in too. So we just created an equation from this table. Y equals to 3x plus 1. Box your answer. Okay. I know that was a lot to take in, but we'll do more practice. Okay. If I wanted to check, this is where it's going to be the process. Just like how we did up here, how we plugged in my equation to see if my y values, I could do the same here to check my answers. Okay? So right here, my equation is 3. I'm going to plug in my x value. My x value is 0. Then plus 1 equals. So after I solve for this, I should get 1. Okay? That's what I did for my equation. So 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So that checks out. Let's do the next one. I'm using my equation. 3 times x, my x is now 1, plus 1. Again, after I solve for this, I should get the number 4. So let's do it. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And the next one, 3, I'm plugging in my x value, which is 2, plus 1. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. You see how those check out? The last one should be 10, right? So 3, I'm plugging in my x value, plus 1. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Okay, so that's how I know that this is the correct answer. Y equals to 3x plus 1. Because when I checked myself, I got all of the y values were the same. Okay, I know it's a lot to take in. We'll do more practice. So turn it over on the back. Okay, same thing. Remember, this isn't how they give you it. I just did this so you can check yourself in the middle. The table is going to look like this. 0, 10, 3, 19, and 6, and 28. That's how they're going to give you a table, and they expect you to find your equation from that. Okay? So we're still going to do the same process. We're still trying to find the equation y equals mx plus b. Okay? I told you we're always going to find the b first because it's the easiest thing. Now remember, when your x is 0, that means that your y, whatever number is next to it, is going to be your b. That's your b. So I can already plug in my y-intercept as 10. Oops, as 10. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this 2. Make sure you write that. Your b is also called your y-intercept. Okay, now let's go back to our equation. So I already found my b. My b is 10. So I can plug that in. It's going to be y equals to blank x plus 10. Okay, now we got to find our m. Okay, Remember that m is the change in y over change in x. Okay? Change in y over change in x. So, for this part, we are going to see the pattern. So let's go ahead and just start on the x side. We're going from 0 to 3. We're going from 0 to 3. So what do we have to do to get to 3? Well, we have to add 3, right? Because 0 plus 3 is 3. Let's see the next pattern. We're going from 3 to 6. Our number is getting bigger, right? So that means we're going to add. Then how many do I need to add to get to 6? 3 again. So that's my change in x. Okay, let's do over here on this side. We're going from 10 to 19. My number is getting bigger, so I know I'm going to add. 10 plus something is going to give me 19. Well, 10 plus 9 is giving me 19. Let's go to the next one, 19. We're going from 19 to 28. My number is getting bigger, so that means I'm adding. 19 plus something is going to give me 28. Can I already kind of guess that it might be 9? So we add that, 19 plus 9. Yep, it gives me 28. So we found our change, right? Our change in y was 9. 9 over, and then our change in x was 3. Divide those two to get your m. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, so m is equal to 3. So I can put that over here in my slope. And I just have to write my equation now. Y equals, my slope is 3, so it's going to be 3x plus 10. And I'll plug that in up there too. Okay? So go ahead and let's plug in our equation now to make sure that we got the right. Let's check ourselves. So my equation was 3x, but I know I have my x value. I'm going to plug in that 0 plus 10 equals, it should give me 10. If I plug in 0 as my x value, I should get 10 as my y. So let's do it. Let's solve it. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 10 is 10. Checks out. The next one, 3, plugging in my x value, which is 3, plus 10, I should get the answer 19. So let's solve for it. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 10 is 19. Okay, the last one, plugging it in. My x value is 6. Plugging in the rest of my equation. My answer should be 28. Let's solve for it. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 10 is 28. They all check out. So that means that this is the correct answer. Okay, go ahead and go to example 3. Example 3 is a little different. If you notice that they didn't give me my 0, they didn't give me my x is 0, so I don't know what my b is. So this time we are going to have to find my m first. Okay, so let's go ahead and write my equation. Y equals mx plus b. I don't know what b is, but I can solve for m. So I'm going to do it at the bottom here. M is the change in y over change in x. Okay, change in y over change in x. So let's find our change in y. Let's see what is happening. It's going from negative 11 to 1. Is my number getting bigger or smaller? It's getting bigger, right? From a negative to a positive, my answer is getting bigger. So I know I'm going to add. Now I'm going to have to see how many times it takes me to get to number 1. If you need to, do a number line. Start at a negative 11, and you have to go all the way to number 1. You're going to count how many times it takes. Okay. It should take 12. From negative 11 to 1 is plus, you're adding 12. Okay, let's do the next one. The next one, we're going from the number 1 to 13. Is my number getting bigger or smaller? It's getting bigger, so that means I'm adding. So 1 plus something is going to give me 13. It's going to be 1 plus 12 again. Then the next one, I'm going from 13 to 25. We're adding because my number is getting bigger. So 13 plus something is going to give me 25. Well, we kind of already know the pattern. It's going to be 12. Okay, so my change in y is 12. Now let's do the x. So it's going from -1 to 1, right? So we're going from a negative to the positive, so we have to add. And we just have to see how many times does it take me to get to 1. Again, you could do the number line if you need to. That's fine. I'm fine with that. If you have Desmos, it's even easier. Put it in the calculator. But if not, let's just count it. So -1, 2. So I have to add 2. Right? Let's see the pattern from 1 to 3. My number is getting bigger, so I know I'm adding. 1 plus something is going to get me 3. Well, 1 plus 2. So we can already see the pattern. So x, the change, is 2. Let's go ahead and divide those. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So my m is 6. So I can plug that in. So my m is 6. It's going to be 6x. Okay? So now this is the part we're working backwards still. We already found my m. I have to find my b. Because remember, I need an equation from this table. So let's go ahead and just plug in. We don't have all of it. We're still missing my b. But we're going to plug in the first half. So we got 6. We got my x is -1. And remember, I need to get to -11. So 6 times -1. This part you have to remember, sleepy guy or madman. We have a negative and a positive. My answer is going to be negative, right? So I got that right. But if this 6 times -1 is -6, how many more do I need to get to -11? Okay, so let's do this number line right here. So I'm at -6. I need to get to -11. So let's see how many times I jump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I went backwards, right? So that means it's going to be a negative. So -5. So we're going to plug that in. You just found your b. And we're going to check it right now. Okay? So I know this is confusing. Again, we'll have practice problems so you can understand it a little bit better. Okay, so we got 6. Let's go ahead and use this equation now. So we got 6x. I have my x, which is 1. I'm plugging that in. And we said our b was -5. Remember, when I solve for this, it needs to come out to 1. That's how I know I have the right answer, the right equation. So 6 times 1 is 6, minus 5 is going to be 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. Checks out. Let's do one more. 6, we're plugging in my 3, minus 5 equals. Remember, when I solve for this, it needs to be 13. So 6 times 3 is 18, minus 5 is 13. The last one's 6. I'm plugging in the number 5. Minus 5 equals, it needs to come out to 25. 6 times 5 is 30. Minus 5 is 25. Okay. This one may be a little bit harder, but you guys will be fine. As soon as we start practicing, it'll get better. Okay. So go on to example 4. Example 4 says create an equation from the table. Okay, again, we did not get our 0. We have to work backwards. So it's very similar to number 3. So go ahead and write your equation. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we got to find, we can't find our b first because our x, we don't have a 0. So we have to find the m first. We have to find the change in y over change in x. That's how we find our m. So let's do it. Let's see what we got. The change in y, we're going from 15 to 35. My number getting bigger or smaller? It's getting bigger, so I'm going to add. Okay? So adding how many to get to 35? You're going to add 20. Okay? This part right here. Our change in y was 20. You're going to finish the rest. You're going to tell me, and I'm going to check it. What the change is for each of those. We're going from 1 to 3. My number is getting bigger. I'm adding. What number can I add to get to 3? 2. You're going to finish that. Check it for me. The change in x is 2. Divide those two and you'll get m equals, okay, so 20 divided by 2 is 10. So my m is 10, so I can plug that in my equation. Y equals to 10x. I still gotta find my b, okay? Right now I told you we're gonna go ahead and start solving for it so we can get my b. Gotta work backwards. So 10, I'm plugging in my 1. Okay, remember, I don't have my b yet, but I need to get to 15. So 10 times 1 is 10. So I'm at 10 and I need to get to 15. What do I have to do? My number is getting bigger, so I'm going to add. And 10 plus something is going to give me 15. Well, 10 plus 5. And it gives me 15. Let's do the next one. 10, I'm plugging in the number 3 plus 5. I think I just solved my equation now. 10 times 3 is 30 plus 5 is 35. We got it. So let's go ahead and I want you to plug in all this information. I already gave it to you. I want you to finish the rest of this table to check yourself and plug in this part, okay? For example 5. Example 5, I pulled this from the STAR from last year. They're going to give you this table again. They want you to create an equation. So you're going to create the equation. I have my x is 0, so you already know what your b is. Okay, so you got half of it. Now you have to find your m. Remember, m is the change in y over change in x. When you're finished with this equation, you're going to come see me so I can check it.